good evening, good morning. I want you to ask yourself, what would have benefited Zimbabwe more? Either implementing the democratic reforms and thus end the case of rigged elections and bad governance, or stopping amendment number 3. It should be emphasized here that Mnangagwa rigged the 2023 elections, just as he rigged the 2018 elections before that, and so on and so forth. In other words, if we had stopped Mnangagwa and company rigging elections, we would not be where we are. Mnangagwa would not be in power today. And I would like to remind everybody out there that the MDC CCC leaders had the golden opportunity to implement those reforms. The primary purpose of the 2008 to 2013 GNU was to implement the democratic reforms. That is a fact. So ask yourself again, what would have benefited the country the most? Implementing the democratic reforms and thus end the case of rigged elections and bad governance, or stopping Mnangagwa implementing this amendment number 3. Here is an interview that Tendai Biti gave recently, where he was once again going to town about his preparedness to fight to stop Mnangagwa implementing amendment number 3.
For your time this evening here on SABC News. Let's start off here and get your view. What is your reaction to this proposal that seeks to amend the electoral cycle for Zimbabwe?
Thank you, Mpali, and good evening to your viewers. We regard Constitutional Amendment number 3 of 2026 as a coup, a constitutional coup against the Republic of Zimbabwe, against the people of Zimbabwe. Remember, we had a referendum on the 21st of March 2013 that approved a new constitution. And that constitution is very clear. It gives the president, first, it allows the people of Zimbabwe to choose a president of their choice. This is codified in section 91 of the constitution. The proposed amendment now seeks to delegate that to 300 members of parliament. Yet the constitution makes it very clear that every citizen has a right to choose a leader of his own choice or of their own choice. This is codified in section 67 of our Constitution of Zimbabwe. And remember, our war of liberation was fought on the basis of one woman, one vote, one man, one vote. So how do 300 people replace 16 million people? That's a coup. The second thing is that
Well, let's stop it there for a minute. We all agree that Zanu PF has been rigging elections. That is not in dispute. So if Mnangagwa rigged the 2023 elections, it means he denied the people of Zimbabwe, ordinary people of Zimbabwe, a meaningful say in the governance of the country. If that's the case, Are we saying that is a lesser coup than what he's trying to do now? And remember, Zanu PF has been rigging elections for many, many years. This is not the first time we are seeing the regime rigging elections. This is the problem. Let's go back to the video clip.
Term limits that was clearly spelled out in Section 95 of the Constitution, in Section 143 of the Constitution, in Section 158 of the Constitution. The term of office of the president is 5 years, which runs concurrently with the term of office of parliament. And the term of office of parliament is 5 years, measured from the date that the president is sworn in to 30 days before the date of the last election. So if Zanu PF proposes to give 2 more years to President Mnangagwa, they are extending his term of office. And our constitution is very clear in Section 328. If the term of office is being extended, in this case by 2 years, you need a referendum to agree to the removal of the term limit. Not only that, when you remove the term limit, it doesn't benefit the incumbent. For it to benefit the incumbent, you have to remove Section 328, subsection 7. And you need to do this in a referendum. And this referendum is a separate referendum. So for Zanu PF to achieve what it wants to do, they actually need 2 referendums. And remember, Zanu PF did not campaign on the mandate and ticket of changing the constitution. So the current parliament has no authority to change the constitution. Zanu PF has no authority to change the constitution. In any event, they have no authority to change a constitution that was approved by 3 million people, representing 93% of the electorate who voted to support that constitution on the 21st of March 2013. So what they are doing is a coup and the biggest existential threat that our country has faced since Kukura Wunti in the 80s.
And Mr. Biti, why is it so important to go through a referendum and not to take this position that, to try and amend this constitution?
The constitution is a fundamental document. It represents an agreement between the citizen and those that the citizen wants to govern it. This constitution was created by consensus, popular consensus. It has been the basis of the social contract that our country has been run in the last 15 years. So if anyone wants to change that constitution, he has to go to the people. And this constitution is very clear. Power derives from the people. Why is Zanu PF afraid of the people? Why is Zanu PF creating a constitutional crisis when we have not yet a constitutional crisis? So this constitution must go to the referendum. Every provision that they are seeking to amend. And this is our position, and this is a position that we are prepared to die for.
Amazing. Let's go back to the issue of this is the greatest national crisis since Kukura Wunti. That is utterly nonsense. I would say the country has witnessed other, even more pressing crises. Notably, the 2008 Operation Mafotera Papi, in which Zanu PF was set to lose those elections, and the regime elected rather Mnangagwa and Chiwenga spearheaded the Operation Mafotera Papi, in which they hijacked the vote counting and blatantly cheated in the vote count, whittled down Changirai's votes to justify the runoff. And during the runoff, they used wanton violence to punish the people of Zimbabwe for having rejected Zanu PF in the first elections. SADC, credit where credit is due, stepped in, denied Zanu PF political legitimacy, and forced the regime to go into the GNU of 2008 to 2013. Tendai Biti is telling us here that he's prepared to die to stop Mnangagwa pushing through this amendment. And yet, he and his colleagues failed to lift even a finger to implement the democratic reforms during the GNU when they had the best opportunity to do so. Why? Well, we now know that Mugabe bribed Tendai Biti and company during the GNU. Tendai Biti was the Minister of Finance. And he and his fellow ministers, deputy ministers, the two deputy prime ministers and Prime Minister Morgan Tsvangirai got the E-Class Mercedes-Benz limos. They each got very generous salaries and allowances. And Morgan Tsvangirai got the $4 million US dollars mansion in Highlands. For most of us, we thought that was the extent of the bribe. But information has since started to emerge that they actually got a lot more. Here is one individual who in the last few weeks has revealed something that some of us did not know.
Bhazi rikafira musango, munhu asina kwaari kuenda mubhazi mumu anofara kuti ndo patopumba pake nditori nevamwe vangu pana. Munhu anorwadziwa nekurara musango munhu ane kumba.
Taibadana kumba kwangu.
But amana kumba kugombeza rangu reria. Mana so. But munhu asina imba hatete kurara musango. So opposition ino make sure kuti vanhu vaya vawane minda. But may he so rest in peace Vatsvangirai. Prazi ravo vanga vainaro. Chamisa anaro.
Anaro chamisa. Ane family.
Kana azoramba. Ndoenda newe.
Rikupi.
Ane fam.
Ribi.
I know madresse munhu anetsa kuti focha but anaro chakudza off camera.
Okay.
Ane mine.
Ane mine.
Ane makaseo.
Yeah?
Yes. Biti. Ane prazi. Hauna kumboona here picture yaBiti achitenga mombe kuna Temba Mliswa. Dzekuisa kuprazi. One of the biggest beef producers in the Matabeleland region, the Washman Ngwe.
Okay.
Yes, ane prazi. Ana utenga beneficiary land reform. But what they did is to discourage their people from acquiring my farms. Because why is out munhu akaona something chapiwa nehurumende achapikisa.
Are you for real, Mr. Gansha?
Nomubvunza Washman Ngwe kuti haasi kuita beef here, producer beef here paprasi. Tonyaendanetsa upo waching'ono gore rere. Handiti kuti stand ya upo waching'ono standard ine painogumira. But vakatotaura nehurumende nemasabhuku ikaextendwa because aita god.
So this is the truth. Our MDC CCC leaders are Zanu PF Team B in all but name. They've been playing for Team A to win and for Team A to have legitimacy. They're making a big song and dance about this amendment, number 3. Because they want to retain some credibility with the electorate. Let me state it very clearly here that whatever happens with amendment number 3, we can be certain of one thing. Tendai Biti and his fellow MDC CCC leaders will participate in the next elections, regardless how flawed and illegal that process happens to be. How do I know that? Because they've participated in the past. What has changed? Nothing. They knew Zanu PF was rigging those elections. They also knew that by participating, they give Zanu PF legitimacy. That is exactly what they'll be doing. As for amendment number 3, like I said, we would not even be talking about that amendment if Tendai Biti and company had implemented the democratic reforms to stop Zanu PF rigging the elections. If MDC CCC had not participated in 2023 in their millions, conned people to participate in their millions, both SADC and the AU had condemned those elections as flawed and illegal. They would have gone the extra mile and denied Zanu PF legitimacy. But they could not do that because millions of Zimbabweans had participated in those flawed elections. That is the reality that we have to face and deal with in Zimbabwe. So I ask you again to ask yourself, what would have benefited Zimbabwe more? Implementing the democratic reforms and stopping Zanu PF rigging the elections, even at this late stage. Because even if Mnangagwa does push through this amendment, he can only postpone the parliamentary elections from 2028 to 2030. He can't postpone it beyond that. What would it benefit the people of, what would benefit the people of Zimbabwe more? That we do not participate in 2030 elections to give Zanu PF legitimacy, or fight for to stop amendment number 3. I will tell you, if we do not participate in 2030 elections, just as the argument was the same in 2023, and before that in 2018, we will deny Zanu PF legitimacy. And that is more important, because even if Mnangagwa was to push through amendment number 3, he would have extended his stay in office to 2030. If he has any intention of extending it beyond that, and Zanu PF does not get away with the rigged elections in 2030, there will be no dictatorship in Zimbabwe. And when there is no dictatorship, there cannot be any dictator. But even if he was to fail to push through this amendment number 3, and the elections are held in 2028, if we have no plan to make sure that people do not participate in those flawed elections, they will participate and give Zanu PF legitimacy. So at the end of the day, we will have a Zanu PF dictatorship. It will not be Mnangagwa as a dictator. It will be somebody else. Frankly, it's academic who will be the next dictator. Because as long as we have a dictatorship, the country will still be in serious economic and political crisis. The number one issue here is making sure that we end the curse of the dictatorship. Think about it. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.